Next on this episode is Sagrada.
Designed by Adrian Adamescu and Daryl Andrews. The artist is Adrian Adamescu and Daryl Andrews and Peter Wocken. And published, was it Floodgate?
Floodgate, yeah.
Okay, Floodgate Games.
So everybody pretty much knows Sagrada. I don't need to dive into it much, but basically it's a dice placement game where you're trying to solve a puzzle on your stained glass window board. You get this, at the beginning, you get one of the cards that you're going to slide into your stained glass window board that's like double layered, and it's going to have a grid of different colors and numbers in blank spaces, and that's where you're going to place your dice. And it's, what is it, a 5x4 grid or something, I think. Maybe 6x5. I don't remember. Anyway, you're going to take 2 dice per player plus 1, and you're going to roll them in the center of the table, and you're going to snake draft them, meaning that player 1 will draft, then 2, then 3, then 4, and then 4, 3, 2, and 1, and then you have 1 die left over that goes on the board in the middle, and you're going to do that 10 times. That's the game. You're going to get points because you're putting these dice on your board in a specific pattern, but you have to abide by certain rules. If it has a number, it pretty much it has to be that number. It can't be a different number. If it's a color, it has to be that color. It can't be a different color. If it's a white space,
and it can't touch
you can't
the same color or the same number.
So blue can't be next to blue, 3 can't be next to 3. And then you have blank spaces, which are kind of freebies. Certain boards are easier than others. There's a difficulty 3, 4, and 5. Whichever one you pick, you actually get these glass beads, which can activate these special powers in the middle of the table, or in the middle of the game, or that you don't own. They're just in the middle. There's 3 of them each time you play the game, and those are static for the whole game. And the first person basically to go there gets to play 1 glass bead to do the special ability. Then I think everybody else past that is 2 to activate it. There is also 3 in-game conditions. Those are, get points for every set of 5s and 6s that you have, or every blue and red, or whatever. You also have a personal goal that is 1 color die, and you get points for every color or every die on your board of that color for what the pip value is. So if you've got blue and you have a 5, 3, and a 2, you're going to get 9 points at the end of the game or whatever. So that's pretty much the game. You just draft, place. You're placing 2 dice on your board each round. You're going to play 10 rounds. Obviously, if you don't plan well or don't, get the dice that you need, you may not place any dice, and those, I believe, are negative points at the end of the game. Anything else we'll just bring up as we talk about it. And let's see. Eric, let's talk about it. Tell us what you think about Sagrada.
Sure. Well,
we're going to dive heavily into it later this episode. Yeah. If you're watching the YouTube video, this is in the same episode that we're placing this into the pit with Role Player, but let's don't compare it in this video.
Right.
So only speak about Sagrada.
Well, I like how it looks. It's bright and colorful. I like the theme. I think it would is open to a lot of different players. I think it's easy to teach, but it has a rich kind of puzzle aspect to it. Not only do you have to figure out how to place all the dice on your card, you also have to keep in mind the objectives that will give you points at the end of the game, as well as maybe getting your personal objective is to get a certain color of dice. So you kind of want to get those, but you can't place them next to color, the same colors on your board. So yeah, I mean, I liked it a lot. So I think there's a lot of elements in it that keep the game semi-fresh. I wish there was a couple more tool cards that came out because on a couple
those
plays,
are the special ability cards, right?
Right, that we've played. I've seen a couple of those already. So I don't think they came out with a lot of I think they're called tool cards anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I actually read the rule book to this just so I made sure, because we were taught this game, and I want to make sure I kind of didn't miss something or whatever. I mean, not that the game's that complicated. But yeah.
And so think it goes at a pretty good pace. There's low downtime. Basically, you're just drafting dice and putting them on your board. So yeah, it goes by pretty fast.
You brought up well, actually, George, you go. Just kind of generally what you feel about the game.
I have to agree with Eric. I think that it's sort of a family weight game that doesn't have a lot of complexity to it, easy to teach, easy to play, very pleasant. I love the snake draft, and I think the tension of needing certain dice, and then you have to wait as the draft comes back to you.
Yeah. Sometimes you need like a blue 3.
That's exactly what you need. Yeah,
right.
And it can be really challenging. And I really enjoy the use of the tool cards, that sort of race idea where if I do it first, it costs me less.
Cheaper.
And
But you get less benefit too because you probably did it earlier on when you have more choices. Later in the game, it is going to be more expensive.
Important.
Right.
Yeah.
But they are going to be more important because you're more limited on the possibilities of which dice or which colors or which numbers that you need.
Yeah, that's a great dilemma. That's enjoyable. It could have been game of the year for me.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Matt?
I thought the dice were little.
No.
It's like great components, but like just about 20% too small.
You think so? I didn't have any problems with the dice.
I didn't have problems with it.
I thought the player boards were like gorgeous looking.
Yeah.
The game is very pretty. The color scheme and everything pops. It grabs your eye.
Agreed.
It's you feel, I guess, kind of like you're making a little stained glass or whatever. I did enjoy the game. The snake drafting is fun. I guess the only thing is I felt like sometimes there's movies that get really hyped up, and then you see it.
Yeah.
You came in with high expectations,
and then you're just like, that was it. The game is good. I don't want to say I don't like it, but I just I guess I expected more.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I think
it is a lightweight game, though.
Right, it's definitely on the
the
lighter side.
I don't know how much I could have expected from a lightweight game, so maybe I didn't really know how light it was.
Well, I mean, this is the dilemma with board games in general. Is I feel like family weight games that are light, 45 minutes, like the Spiel des Jahres winners and stuff, they're going to make the biggest impact because it's going to be there's a wider audience for that, and they're a very vocal audience.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow, I can play this with pretty much anybody. Like, not a lot of people are, screaming that Kingdom Death Monster is going to be. I mean, it's popular and it's huge and people talk about it, but for different reasons because it's a $400 game and it's just elaborate and insane.
It's not for everybody.
Right.
But that shouldn't be discounted. Being able to play a game with anybody is
No, I agree. That's why. But what I'm saying is, to what Matt was saying, I think that's why the hype was so out there, is because it's like that. The same thing with Splendor. Even though Splendor is an amazing game, but Splendor just had so much accessibility that everyone was interested in. And since it's so accessible, everyone could talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
True. Yeah.
Whereas not everybody's going to talk about, I don't know, Cutthroat Kingdoms. Even though that's a fantastic game, we need to play the game.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it quite a bit, although I do have a couple of quips with the game. One, the private objective could be eliminated from it completely.
Well,
that
I
is
think
garbage.
that is addressed in expansion.
That's
which
true.
They add other objectives, so your objective is not always going to be get a certain color dice. I think they added other.
Let's
things.
rip those up and completely replace them.
It's entirely replaced and fixed in the expansion.
Thank everyone that was involved. So I guess I'm late to the game because I didn't really look at the expansion at all. Obviously, we're just talking about
the base game, right?
But yeah, I was like, seriously? Yeah. Okay, whatever. 50 million points. That's cool.
Yes, that's just bad. But also, if you look on Board Game Geek, there are variants that people have come up with to solve that if you don't have the expansion.
Okay.
So
that's fair.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the expansion I think adds 5 and 6 players, which I think would be neat.
Yeah.
So. The other thing is I didn't what else do I have on here? Oh, I didn't like how each player actually started with a different difficulty. I would have preferred it where everyone
you chose.
I know that. I played the game. But what I'm saying is I'd rather everybody start with difficulty 3. Like, what does everybody want to play? I get that you can say that it's balanced because you get more glass
tokens
beads or whatever
to do the
more
tools.
actions.
Right.
But is it really like
how balanced is that?
Yes.
Right.
Is it really that much easier of a path for you to take a 4 and me take a 5? Like, are you going to have that much easier time because you have one more token? I mean, first off, when you have,
I have, in the 2 games I played, I always took the 5 to get more options.
All right, to get more mitigation
Right.
techniques.
I always go for the higher ones too, just so that I'm sweating more.
That's fair. I took a 5, and I would almost think that everything should be a 5. Why even have 3? Like, I think it should be like, if you want to play it, I guess, I don't know. It's interesting because it has a handicap mode essentially. So if you're playing with your grandma, she can just take a 3 and feel like she had fun.
Right.
But I think
Have
if
an easier time completing her objectives.
Yeah, I think for gamers, I would actually probably house rule this to where everyone
Everybody take
takes
a
the same
5.
Yeah. Do you want to play 5 or 4? Because no one's playing 3. I mean, that's just probably pointless.
Sure, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. That was just a weird. I didn't really hate it. I'm just saying it was like weird, and I didn't think that just because somebody took a 3. Actually, I don't know. I didn't know if like a 5 was that much harder than a 4, or if a 4 was that much harder than a 3.
I'm not sure either. I think we just have to sort of trust the designer's gone through those algorithms, and
Yeah,
there's a reason for it.
So what do you think about the level of luck versus mitigation?
I think there's enough, although I do say luck does come into effect because, like I said, sometimes you're going to need a blue 3.
I don't like going first.
and that blue 3 just has to come out, or you have to find a different way to get a specific die. And that also determines on which tool card is out. Some might let you move a die, but maybe that one's not out, so you have to find a different way to do that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think I agree that the luck is able to be mitigated, but sometimes you have to really plan your battles as far as which tool card you're going to use, and make the most of it, because
that's going to be
might
it.
just not be there
You
for
have
you.
to make the most of it.
Yeah,
I kind of would like to see the. I know it's easy because it's just first person pays 1, second player pays 2. It'd be neat if it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, but you started off with way more.
Wow.
Right.
okay.
Because then it would be like, whoa, because then it would, near the end of the game, those tools aren't, unless you just saved up and did really well up until then.
Right.
Could you do the same tool more than once in your version?
Well, yeah, I mean, you could do it, but if I went first and put 1, you went and put 2, now I got to put 3.
Right.
But maybe you have double the amount of glass speeds. Kind of deal. Anyway, just an idea. That's the idea I thought about. Just saying. Not that, whoa, almost fell out of my chair. Anyway, yeah, I agree with Matt. Dice can be slightly larger, but I don't think it's really that big of a deal. It's just nice because when they're rolled on the table, people are moving them around. Those tend to be easier to knock over. Like maybe it'd be kind of neat if they had a, I don't know, I guess, but
giant version.
If you 3D print a little, like a little grid that had insets that you could put all the dice in after they're rolled, or like a device that you can like shake it and then the dice just pop out little holes.
Well, I think
I don't know.
The Kickstarter version or something came with a little dice tray. When we played it, we rolled into a dice tray.
Yeah.
And then we could pass that tray around.
But they're so small, they get it stuck in the corners, and you're like trying to move them out of there. And
you
stuff.
gotta have to, shimmy them to the
not
middle.
That's the game's fault because it was our dice tray. But
Right.
We need round ones, Eric.
That would help.
I do like that there's a component that comes with the game where the die that isn't chosen each round gets placed on that track.
So you clearly know
what dice
round it is
are not in the game or how many have come out.
Yeah.
And you clearly know what round it is, and there can be tool cards that reference that, so you can sometimes go back and save yourself.
Right.
I use that so much. Like I think that's the only one I used.
That was the better of the ones we had.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, bam, well, sweet. I'll trade for that purple 3 or whatever, over and over. So apparently purple wasn't a good color in our game. Anyway, anything else you want to... A lot of this is going to be discussed more in detail. Like I said, if you're watching the video of this, it's just going to be this game. But this is a segment out of our podcast, episode 73, which we are pitting Sagrada versus Role Player because everybody in the world thinks that they're similar. And so
I see the similar.
they have dice and colors. Yeah. So
and they go on a
They go on a
board.
little board.
yeah, they
Inlaid board.
They got holes in the board.
Right.
It's amazing. So we're gonna pit those together and see which one comes out on top. If you are watching this on Board Game Geek, then check out our YouTube channel for that thing, and it is Meeple or YouTube.com/MeepleCore. So anyway, that is Sagrada.